Okay. It's John Nalbandian, Chair of the Parks and Rec.
I'll make sure to,
Bring this meeting to, call this meeting to order. So we have a few.
Hold on just a second. Kurt, did you have something you were saying, or are we? Okay. Okay, go ahead, John.
Your turn.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. To minimize distractions during the meeting, please silence your cell phones. If you are attending virtually, please ensure you are muted and your video is off when you are not actively participating in the meeting. And then the city reserves the right to turn off or mute participants when the chair calls for public comment. Please raise your hand, those in the room, to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise the hand function or raise hand function to indicate that you wish to speak. Please leave your virtual hand raised until you are called upon. The primary format for accessing or participating in this meeting is in person. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored. If you have any trouble, the meeting can be viewed on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Please state your name and zip code before speaking. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Back to you, John.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roger. We have the first item is approval of the minutes from our July 8th meeting. Are there any comments on the minutes? We have a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
It's been moved, we approved the July 8th minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Anybody, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, scream out loud. Okay. Next is public comment, and this is public comment on any item that is not on the regular agenda. So do we have any public comment? Michael? Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I'm Michael Allman with Sustainability Action Network. Just here to brief people on the upcoming electric vehicle show that we do every year. This is the 6th year we've done the show, and we've usually had it in the park except for the first 2 years, but in the park area. This year, we're moving to Massachusetts Street. It's going to be closed off. Here's a flyer about the show and a diagram about, I already sent this to Roger, but a diagram about how it's going to look with personal electric vehicles and pickups on one side of the street, and then commercial vehicles, booths, dealers that are on the other side of the street. The City of Lawrence is a co-sponsor of the show. I imagine you already know that. We've also been in touch with Robert Aaron, the fleet manager. We're really pleased that Lawrence has committed to changing the entire fleet to electric. And the city has already purchased 5 Chevrolet Bolts, and they have 2 electric hybrid fire trucks on order that should be delivered later this year. Too late to be in the show, but maybe next year. So that's the basic rundown. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Do you include like the little electric scooters and things like that, or it's just?
Well, we hope so. We've gotten several of electric bicycle dealers to participate, and we have a certain number of electric bicyclists themselves. We're hoping to get more electric cargo bicyclists, because we figure this is a show about transportation alternatives. And of course, a bicycle itself is a transportation alternative, but there's electric vehicles.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Okay, then let's move to the regular agenda. Outdoor Aquatic Center renovation project update.
Okay. Don't mind. Can I get the mouse?
Oh. Sorry, are you?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Am I going to be in your way?
You might sit down there just for viewing, but it's up to you. All right, I'd like to give you an update on the Outdoor Aquatic Center project. So it's on the City Commission agenda tomorrow night. So it's really coming along very nicely, in my opinion. I've really been impressed with the public engagement we've had up to this point, and it's really kind of shaped the whole project. So just to run you through, this is the presentation that'll be on tomorrow night's City Commission agenda. But just this, some of this is old. So I think last time we met, we talked about the 4 potential concepts. And then after that, we kind of narrowed it down to this was preferred through the surveys we were going through. So it was kind of the combination of a lazy river and a leisure pool plus a lap pool. Moving further into public engagement, it started to define other parts of this. So let me get you down here. So these are some of the groups we met with after we met with the City Commission. So they requested us to reach out to more individual groups. So those are a list of the groups we met with.
Oh, good.
So then we got to a preferred concept. So it's a little bit different than what you saw the first time. So this one kind of had a little more of a curved feature. So through the public engagement, a lot of people talked about the leisure part of the pool. So that's this part. So trying to balance the public comments with the way we had it done originally. So this is preferred. So this is base model within budget, but you can see what the footprint looks like. So this is the footprint of the existing pool. So we're about 3,000 square foot less than the existing pool with water. So when we look at water, we're talking about the lazy river, the splash pad, and then the lap lane / diving area, plus the slide area.
Are we assuming then that the use of the existing part of the pool that is going to go away who use that will use this new space?
Yeah, so yes, and especially the zero depth area. So you can see our zero depth quite a bit bigger. Basically is replaced by this and the splash pad. So smaller kids will use the splash pad considerably. This will be a little bit different than what we've had because it gets into aqua exercise where you have a current circulating the water. So a lot of pools use that for like evening classes for aqua exercise, walking with it or walking against it.
What's the depth?
Here.
No,
So we go 0 down to 3, I think. I think this is 3.6.
okay.
And then over here, we're at about 3.6 down to a little less than 5. So this is the existing pool. All we're doing is chopping the end of it off. This doesn't change.
Eliminate some of the laps.
Yeah. So currently the lap lanes are going this way. So we have potential to run 8 lap lanes here if we want to.
Oh.
So the more we talked about it, there is a need to have lap lanes most of the time, but there's also a need for the recreational swim. So what we're kind of eliminating up in here of the old pool is the recreational swim. So it's that kind of 5-year-old to 12-year-old, where are they going to be? So we've tried to activate this and not just make it lap lanes. So we're talking about a volleyball net and some floatables and basketball goals and that sort of stuff. Here you'll see the slides. So currently we have one big slide. I should go back to that. So one big slide like this. So what we're talking about in the first concept is doing more of a family slide so multiple people can go down at once, mom, kids, or multiple kids at once, or whatever we want to do. So that's going to be the base slide. So we're here, so we're 3,000 square foot less, but we're in budget. So that was the task we gave the consultant is we need a concept that stays in our budget. So it's $6.1 million budget. So this does all that, hits all the pieces we wanted to hit. So the feedback we've got is it's too small. And City Commission gave us that too. City manager said, give us the base and then give us what preferred options would be going up. So that's what this starts to do. So these are really cool renderings if you haven't seen it. So this is our existing pool. This is what the new pool would look like. Pretty fun.
With the model you just showed.
That model we just showed. So this is the base model. All right. So this shows 2 slides. There's really only one in the base, but this would be the second slide that you'll see it coming in the next model. So think this is me right here. It might not be.
You wish.
Yeah, no, wait, that's me right there. Oh, wait, that's me there. Wait, it's the same guy, doggone it. I thought it was me. Maybe my tan's off a little bit. Anyway, pretty cool concept. So we have a shade structure over the 0 depth, walk-in 0 depth here. We get down to 3 foot, and we have a circulation system that runs the lazy river around. You can see the splash pad over in the distance, lounge chairs throughout the facility. So probable costs, we're within budget, so we're at the $6.1 million. So preferred concept with expanded leisure, so we've made this wider. So that was one of the comments we had, that they didn't think we had enough small kid leisure area. So this is expanded and this is expanded in this concept. So then we get the second slide put on here. So this list shows you what we've added. So the ramped entries, talking about ADA entrances. So we've added more ADA features. We added a ramp over here in this concept. So the other one didn't have that secondary ramp. So we have ADA access through lift and stairs, but this one has a ramp feature. Same aerial view, a little wider here and with the ramp in there. Second slide's in. Splash pad's a little bit bigger.
And just for context, I think this 3,000 is similar to Lions, correct?
The splash pad,
Yeah,
it's bigger.
a little bigger?
Yeah, Lions is a little less than 2,000.
Okay, what about Burrow? Is that the one that's,
It's smaller even yet.
okay.
So this would be bigger than all.
So the smaller one is equal to the,
Yeah, these would be, the smallest one in the base model would be about the size of the Lions.
okay.
So you can see we've jumped up 1.4 million, or 1.2, I'm sorry, over the base. Okay, so this one takes the same expanded here and lengthens the lazy river, which everybody's talked about. It'd be cool to have a much longer lazy river. So you can see square footage adds here. So this gets us back up to the 19,000 square foot that we are currently. So you can see the square footage looks about the same.
Does that include the splash pad?
Mm-hmm. All these include all water features, so it's the water plus splash pad.
So it's actually less water.
Water, yeah.
Yep.
So that's that one with the bigger lazy river, bigger splash pad, wider here. So here we go up $2.4 million over base. So we're here, we're trying to get the final concept approved by the city commission, tell us which way you want to go. If we can do that, we start working on permitting and bidding with a construction window of hitting middle of summer next year. So we want to have at least a half a year of pool open in 25. So maybe we start theoretically in middle of July, close it down, start construction, and then have it open by middle of the year of 26. So we don't lose the whole summer either side. The engineer is saying that we can maybe get a little tighter on that, maybe get back closer to the start of the season, all depending on weather. So what we're asking the city commission to do is tell us which one you like. So do we want to stay in budget? Do we want to go up 1.2 million? Do we want to go up 2.4 million? Now the funding of this would be all debt funded. So the city commission is going to have to say, go ahead and raise the debt funding for the city total, or go find a different project to take off the list on the CIP. So that CIP conversation has not happened yet with the city commission. They've seen the original model, and so they look at the whole list of projects. Now, if we add this, the question will be, do you want to add to the debt funding, or do you want to take something off? We don't know that answer.
We're about to share this. To be able to see this.
So nobody.
Yeah, so, yeah, we might want to run back through that, and I do apologize. I should have been looking at my email. Anyway,
So Andrew didn't see any of that?
yeah. Sorry, Andrea.
Well, I can kind of see it on the wall behind y'all, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what the chat says, but, yeah.
So Andrea, just to recap, these are the three options that are available. So here's base in budget. This is 1.2 million over budget with an expanded leisure area. This one is an expanded,
We can,
expanded leisure plus longer lazy river. All right. That's basically where we're headed.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Val Renault, board member. We brought it up last time, but I don't know if it's been answered in the interim, how to handle the splash pad, you know, that could we keep it open after hours since the others are open till 9 or so? The pool closes so early.
Yeah, so operationally, we know we want to expand the splash pads seasonally. So we want to be ability to open that, say, mid-May, and then run it till October 1, but the pool's not going to operate that season. We haven't really decided on the operation within a day because we don't, the idea would be that pool's open how late in the evening, and then is there extra time to warrant closing the inside, opening the outside, or in the morning, we want to open a splash pad at 9 o'clock and the pool doesn't open till 1. So a lot of it depends on what our pool operating hours are.
But there will be like a fence or something.
Yeah, so all of these have the fencing capability. So right here, there's basically a series of gates that can close when only this is open and the pool's closed. And then the entry's out here.
Nice.
So I think operationally, we need to look at that a little bit on, you know, some of the time you're paying to use the splash pad and some of the time it's free.
Right.
We don't know if that's worth flip-flopping every day to do that, or if it's just more we use the splash pad when the pool closes for the season. So I think that's a future conversation for staff too.
Yeah.
And we don't know what hours the pool will operate. So,
But the options are there.
yes.
So we'll have
If people are
something.
in the pool, their kids can also do the splash pad.
No, that will happen for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're in the
Inside the
pool,
splash pad can't get into the pool.
right? Yeah,
I'm assuming that the city commission is not going to ask the staff for a recommendation.
I feel like we've got them to this point, so it's really a funding question. If they want to go bigger, we can.
Yeah, no,
We've given them a project that matches the budget.
no, I was thinking that, you know, as an advisory board, we might want to weigh in, but given where it is and the choices, this is clearly a political decision.
Correct. It's policy.
So I don't, you know.
I mean, I think all of us would prefer the bigger one, but
Yeah, I mean,
just a matter of money.
we don't have to raise the taxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Come on.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Doug.
it's too small. So will the lap pool remain 25 meters then? That was,
25 meters, yes.
and then I know this is going to be very forward thinking, but I know you said you want to be able to have things for older kids to do. Will those pieces that you're putting in there in the summer, could those be removed in the morning for adult swim so all the lanes can be used?
Yes.
Like it's an easy.
Yes,
Okay.
so those are what's shown there are floatables and then a net for volleyball. So how that works net-wise, I'm not sure, but the engineers said that's no problem. It's things they've done in other pools. I suppose there's a sleeve in the bottom that the pole goes down through so it can be pulled out. The swim teams had a little bit of interest in maybe running small swim meets here. They didn't seem overly excited about it, but one of them particularly thought, you know, if it was there, we might run some entry-level swim meets where you swim 25 meters. So, but most of them thought they would probably use practice. They also talked a lot about the use of the indoor aquatic center, that they wanted more use of a 50-meter pool and
Yeah.
indoor pool.
Would be great.
So that's a matter of programming and scheduling, so.
And my last question with that, with the lazy river, because I saw the diagrams and maybe it's just an error, they were walking. Is it going to be lazy rivers where you actually sit in the inner tube and go around, or is it a walking one?
No, we opted out of the inner tubes
Okay.
because we've had some experience from other pools that the inner tubes basically become a huge maintenance problem. and they get scattered all over the place.
That was my next question,
So-
because the ones I've been to, there's a giant area to store the inner tube. I didn't see it over there.
Yeah, we had it,
Cool, thank
it
you.
was in there originally.
Okay.
But we're going with pool noodles.
Okay.
So it's much easier
works.
to maintain. We can buy a couple hundred of those, store them in a cabinet and use it that way. So that's the thought.
Thank you.
My first question is, when you were developing the expanded concept, was anybody giving you feedback that the splash pad was too small?
No, we got feedback that they liked the splash pad. So we shrunk it in the first one so that you can see this one's smaller than these.
Right.
So I don't think we had feedback that the splash pad was too small.
I guess I'm wondering why in the preferred concept, both preferred concepts, you enlarged it if there hadn't been public demand for that.
So the question that I did ask the consultants at some point, is there a direct correlation between shrinking the splash pad and additional water surface in the pool? It wasn't a dollar to dollar. Because that was my thing. If we can make that smaller and add more water surface, but it's disproportionate.
Okay.
So doing that, again, trying to get as close to the 19,000 square feet that we currently have, that was a way to achieve it with more affordability than expanding the water surface. It just was that off kilter.
Gotcha. Second question is access for people with disabilities. Can you talk a little bit more about how someone who's a wheelchair user gets into the pool?
Yes. Which concept's best one? So all of them have different steps. So this, like this one here has steps here and I don't think they put there's a chairlift there and a ramp that also has, in this pool, there's an access ramp here and an access ramp here with a lift. So those are all basically three different ways of access.
The wheelchair question came up when we met with independents, and we're talking about the PVC also water wheelchairs that allow for transfer in and out.
Okay.
They had some concerns about not having the lifts, because if we had, two access points at each, that would be sufficient. But there was some concern about people coming in out of the water onto the chair. It's easier to get out of the chair when you're coming in, but coming back in. So that's when they suggested that we maintain the lifts as well. So in essence, there's three ways with somebody with mobility issues to get in the pool. One of them is solved by having a few choices of those PVC water wheelchairs, because you need an oversized one. You probably need one for smaller children that can transfer, because you don't take your motorized, wheelchair into the water. So those things did come up in our conversation. So they were very satisfied with our solutions here.
Good. And the ramps, I noticed they're not in the main preferred concept, but they're in the addition. When you talk to the folks from the disability community, how much demand was there for the ramps, or how big a difference did they think that would make?
So there is a ramp there's a rail. So the ramp is, part of the zero depth. So it's going down gradually. So in both cases, the only one that actually disappears is the one in the lap pool. And again, the wheelchair lift would address that. They had some concerns, not concerns, but they didn't know how much use that ramp would, though adding that one would be in every scenario. They wanted to have options more than anything. So that's why we added them in. Again, it adds cost, but we do address it with the lift and with the stair, but there's no change in the leisure pool.
Okay, so back from lifeguarding at the indoor that ramp is used a lot, especially for classes of people who they're not in a wheelchair, but their walking ability is limited. Are they gonna be able to make it down those steps?
In the lap pool.
Yeah.
These will be built to ADA standards, so yes, if you can walk, it'll have the rails, but you would have to be fairly agile to go down the stairs.
That's what concerns me.
Yeah.
Because those folks would come in with walkers frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they can do stairs.
Yeah, the lift's here, so you'd have either option. But yeah, it's a thought. We didn't get a lot of really heavy, we have to have that other ramp.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't as big a deal to them? Okay.
And I think maybe it's because of where we're going into, it's basically a lap swimming area.
Right.
Yeah. So it was-
Yeah,
We
yeah.
want to do lap swimming.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Because people who would use the ramp wouldn't want to cross the lap lanes with,
To get to the recreational.
yeah,
But like,
yeah. Why wouldn't you put it in the more free swim area? Because they come in and they get a beach ball around. They have different little things that they do. Very few, as I recall, of people with severe mobility limitations were actually using lap lanes.
Yeah, so the other thing that I want to say, these are still conceptual drawings.
Okay.
And I appreciate you bringing that up because we will have these conversations throughout the actual design phase, including, continued dialogue with Independence and our ADA coordinator. So we'll definitely, knowing things can shift, this is just, here's a general concept. And once you get down to the nitty gritty of it, things will.
The big issue is 1, 2, or 3.
yeah.
Right.
And location of this, maybe it could just hang in
So
here.
we can modify this.
Okay, cool.
For sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's,
Comment, any questions? Okay, so make sure.
Exciting.
okay, let's move on.
Okay.
Budget update.
Okay, so, let's see. All right, so I'm going to go back a little bit in the history here of where we've been in the budget process and where we go next. So February 2024 or so, before I started, the budget process begins, correct? Yes, it's already 6 months underway.
Yeah.
On June 18th, the city manager presented his recommended budget, the CIP budget on that date, to the commission, which included the funding for this project in 2025, the pool project, $6.1 million. Right at the same time, we had the South Park wading pool replacement in 2025 and 2026. And we could probably mention something about that now, which when we brought up that project in the commission meeting, there was some questions about the location of it. Do we really need another splash pad in this part of Lawrence? Can we look at other locations, specifically West Lawrence? So when we did some more outreach for surveying, we asked that question to the respondents. If we were to have a splash pad in this pool, which makes sense, physical location of it, where would you rather have the additional, currently at least identified for funding, splash pad in South Park or in West Lawrence, without really specifying the location? And 62% of the respondents said West Lawrence. 38 said South Park. So it looks like that's the direction we're moving. Where the location is, we still have that to be determined, but
You can use my backyard.
All right, in your backyard, you want that? Okay.
That'd be nice.
You want a gate as well, or just no gate?
Will
Okay.
you maintain it for us? Take you up on it.
So that was in the presentation for the 25, 26, as well as a youth sports complex, the addition of the turf fields out there and for about just under $4 million. Those are all bond funded. So as Mark mentioned with the Outdoor Aquatic Center, any change in that project would come through additional issuing of debt or replacing a project that's in the short future because we would need to pick something in lieu of that. And then under the capital sales tax funding for our capital improvement plan, there was the Lawrence Loop from Michigan to Sandra Shaw, 2025 for $650,000, correct? And one thing that was, and $900,000 in 2029 for 7th Street to Constant. Now, what became evident was that the amount that had been budgeted for that same loop project was no longer in the 5-year CIP because it went from 25 to 2029. But there was $500,000 in there in 2024. It just did not appear in the grid that was sent out to the public saying, here's our proposal. So that money has been moved from 2024 to 2025 to identify that we still have that funding available for design studies and things of that nature. So, but there was a public outcry for what happened to the money. Why is this being pushed out to 2029? There's still a component of that project in 2029, but we just recognize that there still was money in there sooner for us to start the study and
So there's design, but not construction money?
not yet, yeah. There never was at that point. The 500 wouldn't have been enough for construction. So.
Okay.
Then July 9th, the city manager's recommended budget presentation. There's the operating budget went to commission with a 3.5 mil increase recommendation, which and a 0.5 sales tax increase which would increase the affordable housing from 0.05 to 0.1 to incorporate some of the costs for homelessness solutions as well. Now, even at the 3.5 mil increase that was suggested or recommended by the city's manager, city manager, we would have taken some service level reduction hits within our department. So we were asked to come up with a plan of what that would look like. We came about, and our target reduction at that point was $660,000 from our operating budget, which our proposal was we have vacant positions. We can freeze those or eliminate those. We have part-time positions, which really impact the amount of activity that can occur at our facilities. Golf, and I think I've talked about this every time, but the golf, the aquatic centers, golf course, aquatic centers, and rec centers. And when we could be open, when it's mostly manned by part-timers, and then a reduction in operating expenses. So, one of the questions as a result of that meeting that Commissioner Finkeldie asked is we have a special rec fund, which is funded 1/3 by the special alcohol tax. So 1/3 of that comes to the special rec fund, which is to be used for specific things, to expand or create new programs or new parks, new facilities, et cetera. It doesn't have enough money for new facilities altogether, but there was a projected revenue positive in 2025. So his question is, well, instead of really hitting our operating budget, can we use some of that money that's in excess? So, and we've responded, the city manager's office and budget have responded that we will look at certain things. So there's a possibility that comes September 10th. And in every scenario, we are giving something up. Parks is giving something up, so we're looking at the possibility of restoring all these through moving some of those things around. It's not finalized at this point, but we have some ideas in mind of how we minimize the impact by doing just that, moving one-time expenses into the special rec fund. We don't want anything in there that is a recurring expense, staffing or anything like that, because that's all dependent on, you know, the alcohol tax. And I know in the past it's been threatened to be taken away. So we don't really want to put any long-term plans, but one-time plans. So that's what we're still working on. So the final number that the commission came up with, the city has to, or this per state statute, the city has to have a revenue neutral position as the budget gets approved. Anything above what revenue neutral is has to go to a public hearing, which is the next step. On August 22nd, there will be a public hearing to discuss the amount over revenue neutral that the city is proposing. So just to give you some background, I'm sorry to ramble on, but I think, you know, not everybody hears this, tunes into every commission meeting. So the revenue neutral rate based on the new valuations on the mill is 3.0766. What the commission agreed to cap it at, which you can cap it, have a hearing about it, you can't go over that once the hearing happens, but you can go under. So the commission gave budget the okay to go ahead and file with a 3.6807. So it's about 6 mil over what the revenue neutral rate is. So in the ensuing weeks, since that last meeting, I think the commissioners and city manager and budget have been talking, and, you know, what does each of these mills mean? What does it mean to the departments? You know, very present is one of the proposals to reduce firefighter staffing on apparatus and from 4 to 3. So there are a couple of, I don't want to say competing, a couple of high priority things that, you know, the commission will have to decide on during this time. And I think that's when they'll settle, okay, this, and after the hearings, August 22nd, so I invite you all to come. That's when they'll decide what that, or after that date, September 3rd is when the commission is meeting to approve the budget. So the expectation is after September 3rd, we will know, you know, what 2025 looks like for us. I will say that in the meantime, and it was mentioned in a commission meeting as well, that 2024, there's also a deficit in the operating budget. So we've been asked to look at some citywide at some reductions, one-time reductions. These are not to last forever, but how do we close the gap? So we do have 3 positions, full-time positions that we're looking at right now, not filling, or promoting in and freeing up another position, but that's kind of the low-hanging fruit that we can really do immediately without impacting our operations for the rest of the year. So September 3rd, again, is our budget approval. Hopefully we will, you know, we will not have too much of an impact based on what we're hoping that we can fund out of the special rec fund. And, you know, and then 26 is going to be a new challenge. The reality, and it's been said that this is the new norm right now. This adjustment will likely stick for several years because it's all really based on reduced projection of sales tax and the, you know, the curve that they thought it was going to continue to follow, and it just didn't. So looks like this is going to be our new reality, not cutting every year, but holding on to the cuts that we proposed at this point. So,
although if we become a campsite for the soccer, that may make a difference.
Yeah, sales tax, alcohol tax, all of that.
Yeah.
Yes. But again, those are, you know, that's one time. It's not long lasting.
No.
And at that point, it'll be a policy decision to decide, do we you know, do we continue to build on our reserve funds or do we use that for some, so.
You know, the city manager played soccer in college.
I didn't know
So he's sympathetic.
that. Okay, all right, so.
All right,
That's
other
it.
questions on the budget?
So on the remaining 2024 year, at least according to the newspaper, one of the things on the chopping block was sidewalks, I guess, within the park system.
Yeah.
All right?
So, yeah, so we have $250,000 budgeted every year to repair sidewalks and parking lots. So we, in our proposed cuts for 24, because that project hasn't happened yet, we proposed to eliminate half of that. And then we'll go ahead and we're moving the other half over to special rec. Fund. So total general fund, we reduced 250,000, but there wasn't enough room to move the full 250 over to special rec. So we kind of decided to do half and half. Yeah.
No, I hope that's a temporary slowdown because
It has to be.
the city just came out with what, 2 or 3 million a year for a sidewalk improvement. So it seemed weird to me that that had been announced and then there was like, okay, we're going to take some of the sidewalk money away.
Totally unrelated.
I totally get it, but I mean, from
Yes,
the
yes.
public's perception and
Understood.
those who are advocating for better sidewalks all over town, it was
Yeah.
a little weird.
We'll still address those, but it's a reduced budget over what we have annually.
Most of that money has gone to parking lots for the last 5 or 6 years. So we usually pick the worst parking lot and try to rehab it. So we've done East Orange Center, the Indoor Aquatic Center, working on YSC. We have a lot of parking lots when you really go out and count them.
Yeah.
Every facility has 1 or 2 and every park has 1 or 2. So it's to the 250,000, isn't even close to enough to keep up.
Yeah, and I want to say that no decision is easy. You know, what do you cut? What do you choose? It's just, you know, the reality. We have to make some tough decisions. So
I do want to point out that our initial cuts for 25 had a very significant impact on facility operating hours. So we were able to move the Water Tower Park project that was in the general fund out of the general fund, move it over to special rec, then use that 185,000 to backfill the part-time positions we were going to cut. If we would have had to cut that, we would have been closing a lot of things a lot earlier than they currently are. So I feel pretty good that where we're at right now. It was way worse about a month ago. We were talking about this. So.
yeah, and again, September 3rd is when commission will approve. So at that point, we will know. Until then, it's, you know.
Yeah, the things that you will see is, so in the 3 positions, one's the maintenance position, and there's 2 rec positions. And then there's $150,000 of operating expense that normally goes to replace playgrounds and whatnot. So as we look down our playground list, you're going to see ones on the bottom of the list are just going to not be replaced. So they may be tagged for removal and not replacements. So that'll become a little bit of a public issue going forward, just because there's not enough dollars to keep up the system. So, and then maintenance of right-of-ways, maintenance of some of the parking. You're going to see a reduction in mowing in some of these areas that we normally have mowed. So there will be an impact.
And some of them will be more immediate than others. So we're down that parks maintenance person now. You know, it's not 2025. They're not here now, which means there's 40 hours less of a person to be mowing. So again, it's about surgically removing those areas that make sense at this point, because we just physically do not have that staff person on the books.
Yeah, you know, I think at some level, it's important to make cuts that the public can see, you know, rather than trying to kind of gloss it over, this and that. So the public can see, look at, this is the consequence. Now, if we cut hours, where that's gonna, especially at the sports complex, I mean, that is, you know, that's gonna make a big difference.
The rec centers or the pools, or, I mean, that's a huge impact.
Yeah.
And you see those with the maintenance side, if you cut mowing, and there's some of those things you actually see, but if there's 2 So there's 2 programmers on the rec side, so does that mean some of those programs go away?
Yeah, and that hasn't been fully developed yet, but yeah, right now the vacant spot is in the sports division. And then the manager's position's open, but we want to fill the manager position and basically eliminate through attrition one of the ones down the line. So we don't know which one that is yet. But in total, there's going to be 2 people less doing programming.
So there could be less programming.
Potentially, yeah. But then you have to look at revenue, what's producing revenue, what's not. And so it has, those people actually do stuff.
All right, yeah, right.
Okay, I think we should move on.
Dr. Becker, so question I'd like to ask is with the special fund, and obviously with the alcohol tax being a part of it, and knowing that we don't have a football stadium this year where we've seen massive increases, was that taken into account, hopefully for the budget and things like that?
Budget and finance, they took that into account. I will say that in a recent meeting with Explorer Lawrence, the hoteliers are not seeing the decline in visitation and overnight stays that they were expecting. So hopefully they're still staying here, they're going over for games, and then they're coming back and still, spending the weekend or the remainder of the time here. So, I think they're pleasantly surprised with that from what I hear. But yes.
To move everything over and then there's still no money for all of the one times, and then we're in a really.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have a list of those parks at the bottom that would be disappearing?
We do, in fact, I was working with Ruiz on that now to try to get it to basically define exactly what we're talking about. Okay. So yeah, we are working on that. And
because you mentioned the Broken Arrow shelter, which is the subordinate shelter.
Right. That's
not the one that we just beefed up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually 3 shelters.
And I think, like John said, if the public sees that list, that it could, in addition to upset, it maybe cause some fundraising. I don't know.
Well, and the shame is that more people don't see it. You hope, because that was in the original budget presentation. These are the parks, and there wasn't a lot, and not that it was intentional, but there wasn't a lot of feedback at that time, so I hope that every citizen tunes in so that, you can get that reaction, and that's their sentiment known, but it's not what you expect, it's a select few that pay attention. It's not, but they'll see it when it gets fenced up or, unfortunately.
So it'll become public knowledge once the agenda for the commission comes out. Because, like which specific shelters or park things, people always get involved at the 11th hour when they find out, oh, no, this actually is going to affect my park.
Well, and that's why we did that. We included in the presentation on whatever that day was, July 9th, was so, we wanted to be transparent. We didn't want to wait until the 11th hour. Now, things have continued to evolve since that first budget presentation. It's been a daily change, so things could have changed from that, but we knew what we were looking at that point. Especially with maintenance reduction, we have money that we're giving up that is meant to replace parks and to maintain or equipment. So again, wanting to paint a picture as early as possible, hoping that, there's that public interest in the meetings themselves and in reading the agenda, but it doesn't always bear fruit. So we want to be transparent as to what we knew at the time we would be putting out there.
Just to give you an idea where we're at right now, we've fenced off 2 playgrounds that are scheduled for removal. One's at Park Hill and one's at Chaparral. Those neighborhoods noticed now. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. It's like, no, that was on the list.
The one on 15th?
Chaparral.
Which one is the one on 15th by the splash park?
That's Parnell. Well, that's
getting a surface.
It's getting.
Yeah, it should be reopened. Yeah.
Okay, I think we need
Make sure public doesn't have any comments too on the budget, if she has any. Carol, did you have any comments that you wanted to, or questions on the budget?
But I agree with whoever made the suggestion. If we need to get fundraising, I think you can go to your community and your neighborhoods and tell what's going on. And I think it's all doable.
I'm hoping
You
so.
just gotta get a spokesman out there that can get the word out and rally them up, and I think it'll be doable.
Okay, so, let's move on to the next item, being the Parks and Rec comp plan.
Okay, so since last time I mentioned that we had the first draft of the comp plan, which I believe we decided on calling it a master plan moving forward. It's gone back and forth to a few things, but I think it'll be called master plan on the final draft. So we reviewed that. It took about several weeks for us to all go through it, make comments, submitted it back to Confluence 2 weeks ago. They've been working on the revisions, expected to have it to us by last Friday. But they have not been able to complete that with pros and with Jan Younger and having the whole package. So they promised it the next revision by this coming week. So our hope is still to be able to, I think your board, this existing board is still active until September, right? Or is
September 1 is when it changes.
This is the last meeting of this
Last
board.
meeting, right?
Okay.
Don't we have a special, we have a special committee looking at that, right?
It's a steering committee.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll shoot it to them as well for the review. I will say, and I wasn't around when the steering committee was formed and when they were participating, but my understanding is after the initial, several sessions, it really dwindled down to a few. So the amount of interest, I'm not sure, but we will certainly reach out to them before it goes to commission. We hope to go to commission September 10th. That might be delayed because of the September 3rd hearing is pushing some presentations back by a week or two. Okay. So the hope is still to have it in hand in the month of August and be able to distribute that so that there's other eyes other than just the department, and then eventually have any revisions made prior to taking it to commission. So the plan is still mid-September, early October to commission, as long as we get it by next Friday, by this Friday.
And then that's got to be, then the budget has to be integrated into.
Well, and yes, and
we're looking at the budget separately here. Here we've got this comprehensive plan coming up.
yeah, they're not going to be integrated in any way at this point, especially with.
Oh, there probably won't be a budget associated with this comp plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It'll just be.
Yeah, it'll just be a plan. So there's no direct correlation to it. Now, money will play a big part in it once we start executing it, but it won't be attached to the 2025 budget or any other budget.
Okay. All right. Concerns, board member concerns, items of interest?
I had a couple of kudos. I and some other people went out when the cemetery, the old cemetery, Oak Center, had, work for us. And then I guess they hosted this national group so there was some good press on that I saw. So, and my friend who's involved said they got good support from Parks and Rec. So, that was good to hear. I've noticed a few sponsorship signs at SPLC, so that's been good. Whatever we've done with Ligarda, that seems to be, going as far as it can. I did want to say, I think we really need some shade at the 15th Street splash pad. The KU students built, KU students volunteer to build things and they don't always go up to code or whatever. The shade is a strip of license plates, but it doesn't shade the top.
So you're talking about on the shelter?
Yeah, the shelter.
Or on this?
Near the splash pad shelter. It really needs shade on the top. I mean, it was clever, what they did, but it doesn't really provide shade, it provides a strip.
Yeah, as it moves.
Yeah, it moves with the sun.
There's sailcloth, I think, that the original design was with sailcloth because of the way those telephone poles, it's an uneven top sort of, so the original thing was,
Had sails.
yeah, but I think Suzanne Hampton and her group raised money for that stuff or got it donated. So it's a question of Parks and Rec bringing and repairing them.
And putting the sails back.
Yeah, it didn't make it through the first winter.
Because the Lions
There's a
Park
little
had,
flaw in the design.
yeah, interesting. And I know the K's architecture students do good things, but I've heard of other cases where, you know, it's creative and innovative, but sometimes it's not that useful in certain sense. So that was it. I don't think they'd cost that much, but
Yeah.
the Lions Park has natural shade with the trees, so.
Okay, any other concerns, items? Okay, let's move to the recreation report.
Which was submitted.
We saw the PowerPoint of that, but
I don't think she had anything else that I know
I'm just blown away by all the stuff you guys do. I mean, it's just crazy. You know?
A lot of fun.
The number of programs, the number of people, the number of kids, it's like,
People take advantage of it when we have it.
they sure do. They do, boy, out at the Springs Complex and seeing these little kids walking around. Computer camp, this, that, whatever. Okay, anybody have any concerns or comments on that? Okay, let's move to the Arts and Culture report.
Don't really have a lot. The Cultural Arts Commission is having their last meeting this coming Wednesday at 7:30. The only business they're doing is they're going to select the Phoenix Award artist for next year. So we'll be looking for nominations for the Phoenix Awards in 2025.
There were 8 submittals, correct?
8 altogether, which is pretty good, actually. So they're getting, they're scoring them individually, sending that back to me, and then we'll meet before the meeting. So that's heading out. And then, what was I going to do? I was just going to.
Have to be a Lawrence resident? People nominated?
Nominations, yeah, it's always a Lawrence person. I guess there could be a fair, it's not written in stone, I don't think, so if somebody from Douglas County who's participating, they would certainly be welcome to be nominated as well. I'll get that information out later. But mostly, the other thing I just wanted to point out was the Fiddling and Picking Championships are coming up. That is August 25th. And there's Live on Mass August 17th, Back to School Safety Fair, which we're doing, is August 17th. We're working with our first responder groups on that. Civil War on the Border, which is always a great event that Watkins does, is happening on August 22nd and 25th. And the Lawrence Music Alliance that we've been working with on our music census is going to do their Mixmaster Conference, which is all about the music ecosystem and things. And we'll have information about the music census. That's March, oh my gosh, September 6th and 7th, sorry, at the library. So all good events coming up and good stuff happening. That's it.
That's good. Roger?
Oh, him first.
Yeah, I'm first.
I'm sorry.
Park-wise, so we're still dealing with storm damage from that storm we had a week and a half ago. We ran 250 service calls forestry got for that particular storm. And what I felt like they did a really amazing job is they were in at 11 p.m. that night, and they were continually through 1 o'clock the next afternoon. So
Oh my
all night.
goodness.
So they were addressing anything that was high hazard, hanging trees up in the sky. So we weren't worried about stuff laying on the ground. It's just stuff that was hanging over a street or over a public facility. So many trees down, and we're still working on it. We're collecting right-of-way tree damage. A lot of people are giving us some stuff from their backyard too that they. So we're trying to sort through that a little bit, but we still have a lot of trees down, and we deprioritized the parks, honestly. So that if they're just laying in the park, it really wasn't hurting anything. But like over here on the other side of the park, there's a tree that blocked the whole street. So that was a big deal. So we're mostly have all this, I'm pretty sure we have all the streets open now. So it's considerable effort. But
does that interact with your ash tree removal effort at all? Or do you have a sense of how many of the trees down were affected by the ash tree?
I don't. So we've been removing ash trees as they they show symptoms. So we don't have a lot standing. So basically the ash tree, when it starts to flag out, they become really brittle. So, it's a continuous process. Every time you drive around town, it's like, okay, there's another one and there's another one.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stop. I wouldn't say the ash were the main thing falling.
Okay.
We had trees, we had whole trees falling over. It's crazy.
Lots of damage in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Spending a lot of time on that. The other thing, main thing, we had the indoor aquatic centers in our middle of our shutdown out there. So this one's longer because we're replacing some of the roof on the north end of the building over the mechanical rooms and the office areas. So this one's we're supposed to come back up Labor Day weekend, which right now we're still on target to do. So it's a 6-week shutdown. Normally we're 2 to 4 weeks. So, but during that time we're painting, we're redoing restrooms, we're trying to come up with some better ideas for some of our ADA restrooms. We're talking about trying to do a different ADA entrance over to the high school. So right now it doesn't have a push button, so we're trying to get bids on some of that. So lots of stuff. It's kind of amazing if you go out there with the pool closed and all the water out of it. It's a little bit of a different look for us. So that deep end's really deep.
Yeah.
That's it.
What you said about the floor staff work, through the night, morning, is there some way that the board can acknowledge that? That's really kind of going beyond. It may be part of the job, but nevertheless.
Yeah, and it's extreme circumstances too, because you're out there in the dark
trying to look at trees up in the air, and then you're up 60 foot in the air with a chainsaw. So, yeah, I think they would appreciate any recognition.
Maybe I could write a letter to the mayor and just let him just say, can you draft a little something for me?
Yep.
And yeah.
That'd be nice.
Just something like that.
Well, and I would also say, being in a neighborhood that got hit hard, we were so impressed. I mean, as residents, to see how quickly things were taken care of. There's still stuff out there, but to Mark's point, it's understood that there's a priority list and, but that's always great feedback. If you talk to your neighbors who, ironically, it's such a good job that a lot of people don't really think about how did this happen.
Right.
Happily, they have somebody in their neighborhood, namely me, who's telling them what's happening. So they're like, wow, this was great. Parks and Rec showed up the next day and took care of these big branches and stuff. So that always goes a long ways when we hear from our residents.
Yeah.
And it was really impressive what they did.
And Evergy didn't show up for some people.
That took a little longer.
It's kind of a two-stage process.
Okay.
Forestry hits it first, and then all the park staff come in to back them up. So usually, as they're starting to fizzle out a little bit, we have a whole other set of resources coming in. And
Is forestry part of Parks and Rec, or is it?
yeah, that's part of Tyler's division. So he has forestry and horticulture. So yeah,
So MSO doesn't do anything with the trees?
No, they do. They help us, but basically they're a clear the road kind of group. So they'll go out with equipment and push things to the side. They don't do a whole lot with chainsaw work or anything up in the air. So up in the air is all us. We're the only ones that have that equipment. So.
Okay, Roger.
Yeah, I put this on the agenda because it is the last meeting of this board. And I wanted to make recognition to those longtime people that have been on this board for quite a while. One thing you do realize that you've seen 3 different directors in your time here. And actually, a lot of you were part of the expansion of the advisory board from 5 to 9, pardon me. And so I just want to say thank you for your time, for being a part of this board and the input you gave to your community. I think that it takes a lot of people to basically bring up discussion, and conversations can get hard. And I think we've seen those conversations with the public coming in. And I want to just say that please don't stop those that aren't leaving the board. Please make sure that you continue to voice your ideas and your opinions as well, because that's what community is all about. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. And also, I know that they've made appointments to the board. They've had 5 people that they've appointed so far, and tomorrow night, it looks like 2 more board members, Lee and Lisa, will be appointed at this point from what I'm seeing on the agenda. So it looks like we're full. So with those 7. So the next, and I want to kind of tell the folks that are here that were appointed, I know the 3 of you were, and then there were 2 other people, that the meetings will be taking place at City Hall. All boards will be at City Hall in the commission room. And so that's something new that we're going to be doing. Instead of having it here, we'll be at City Hall for the meetings. And then we'll be getting more details to you once the letters, I don't know if you've been notified okay, they probably are waiting until everybody gets notified to send it all out.
Once the appointments occur, then they start notifying people, I believe.
Well, they've already appointed some people from the last meeting, but once the meeting, yeah, I'm thinking they're probably going to do them all one fell swoop, and also look at even doing, like some kind of onboarding type process.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, how all that schedules out, I don't know yet.
We're still working on that detail with all the boards, so.
So the second Monday at 5:30, but we'll just.
Well, that's going to be up for discussion the first meeting. So yes, the first meeting will be the 5:30 Monday. The second, that would be September the 9th. And then from there, the board then sets their meeting time, and by, voice, whatever. Yeah, all that. So just thank you again. I know some of you were on subcommittees that we had and those types of things. Subcommittees will probably be going away, and more ad hoc committees will be formed, and that will be at the leisure, I think, of the city manager more so than the actual board itself. So the structure is going to be a little different. We're going to be focusing on the unmistakable identity, kind of aligning with our strategic plan. So it's kind of changing the thoughts of how the advisory boards work from here on out. So, but thank you.
Who are we losing? Who are we losing?
Well, apparently Sean and Andrea and those 2.
I applied again.
Okay.
So I don't, you're not.
Well, they apparently didn't, So, but it doesn't mean that you can't ever be on the board. I mean, you never know. Your name's out there still. And you had mentioned that you weren't. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I know that Jackie, you wanted to comment, so I thought this would be the most appropriate time before the director's report. I was going to move it to the very end, but I didn't want to your final report, upstage. So I would say if you want to open up the floor to the other folks to say anything that they want to say.
Jackie.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to say, from the first day I wandered into your office when I first got selected 6 years ago, Lee, and we drove around in the truck, and I suddenly learned that we handle cemeteries with Parks and Rec. I feel like I've learned so much, and it's just been a pleasure to work with Marilyn and with you and John on the regular for the last few years, listening to our community, increasing engagement, and, just trying to be the best board we can be by, sometimes being the shield, sometimes being the hard question asker of things. And, I've really enjoyed it, and I thought really hard of if I wanted to do it again. And as much as it would seem perfect, because it's moving what I do for a living with, Parks and Rec, I just think after 6 years, it's probably my space to move on. The one thing I would really, or the 2 things I really hope that we can maybe bring back and or think about. We have the subcommittees with sponsorships, and I know that was mentioned earlier, and I really hope somehow, if this is tying more with the cities and whatnot, that we can really strive to really push sponsorship. I think there are dollars that we are not bringing into our community that should exist here that can help fill these gaps that we seem to not have. So we are, if we're going to lose services or people, that could be a great way to make that all happen. And then the one thing I had thought about when I first joined the board, and I'd talked to Derek about it a lot, but I really hope as the I think the community that Lawrence thinks it is, which is progressive and forward-thinking, that we can really consider our sports programs and how we can make sports not just male-female, and we can really look and speak out loudly for the non-binary community in our competitive sports. And I would really hope, as the new director of Parks and Rec, it could be something you could really think about and listen to our community as our younger generation, for people to be whole and to identify as themselves, to not have to pick a gender if they don't want to when they play competitive sports. And I really hope we can consider that in the future. And that would be my one possible future thought for as we move forward with our new board. So thank you again for the experience, and I've really loved it. So, thanks.
Thank you. And Jackie, I want to say thank you because I know you spent a couple years as the board chair. Your son John. Oh, they did that. Yes, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Chair. Director.
I don't really have anything to say because I applied again. However, I have been here 6 years, and I just felt like, I could just do a transitional year. My daughter is having twins and already has a 3-year-old, so I'll be needed elsewhere, but I will pay attention. And
With twins, you'll be really needed.
Okay, Director.
All right, so the big 3 items that I would have reported on, we've already discussed: the pool, the budget, and the comp plan. That really has been the focus of almost every spare minute. However, I have continued to go out in the community and meet the community, understand where the community is coming from. So I just in the last month, I guess, since we last met, I did meet with the Kansas Recreation and Park Association, get a feeling of what they're doing, what we're doing, how we can partner. Downtown Lawrence, Explore Lawrence, Douglas County administrator talked about common ground and the incubator farms that we have and what the future of those look like with the funding going away. The Kansas Art Commission and East Lawrence Neighborhood Association. So I continue to try to, in addition to internal meetings with the city and getting to know the staff and all that, I'm still trying to really get a grasp of the community. I have met with almost all the commissioners as well. Listen to them, and they've gotten to know me a little bit better. So, I would, if any of you have any suggestions as to who I should meet, I welcome the opportunity. I think the more I get out there, the more I hear, the more I can communicate.
You also met with Jonathan Smith.
Yes, that was a month before. That's why I didn't.
Add it to the list. I didn't want to like double dip on.
Yes, I did.
Ruiz, if you haven't, I would suggest the Douglas County Community Foundation.
I have not. Okay.
Because there is a Lawrence Parks and Recreation Fund that already exists. So that can be a vehicle for fundraising, and they process all the money and keep track of it. So.
Yeah, the Douglas County Community Foundation was brought up by the East Lawrence Neighborhood Association regarding the Hobbs Park and the some funding opportunities, but that wasn't mentioned, so I appreciate it.
Now Chip Blazer's the director.
Okay,
Good contact for you.
thank you, appreciate it. Keep those coming. Thank you. And then again, on my list was thank you to the advisory board. I know we haven't had much of a track record together, but I do know that, your advice is valued and appreciated, and your energies. So I know we'll see most of you back again, but thank you all for your time and energy.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, any other business, any other comments? Okay, let's have a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Okay.
History has been made.
Did we have a second? Did we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Okay, we're in good shape. And September
We're not leaving.
September 9th, we're meeting at City Hall. Okay.
Thanks, Andrea.
You just keep those for your